Johan Santana. We did have an MRI yesterday. The MRI showed inflammation of the lower back. The MRI did not indicate surgery was in order, but he has been prescribed rest medication and, of course, intermittent exercise as well. So as a result of that diagnosis, he will be placed on the 15-day disabled list retroactive to August 18th. However, at this point, we do not expect him to pitch the rest of the season.
Okay.
Let me mention two other items. Kirk Neuenhuis. Kirk was seen by doctors here in New York after having reported to Florida to rehabilitate his partially torn plantar fascia. He also has been prescribed rest over a period of weeks, and I do not expect him back in action through the remainder of the season. With Johan going on the disabled list, we have brought Colin McHugh from Buffalo. He is here and will be activated and will start tomorrow's game. Questions for anybody?
Yeah.
Did Santana have an MRI or any other exam on anything on the back?
No. There is no issue with his ankle, no issue with his shoulder. Obviously, with a back problem and continuing to pitch, that itself could lead to problems with the shoulder or the ankle or an elbow, and another reason why we're trying to be cautious about this.
Sandy, is it a muscular thing, or is it a disc thing, or do you have any further details?
I don't believe it's a disc. It is an inflammation in the area of L5. And that inflammation has led to some soreness. But again, I think the important thing is that doctors have not recommended surgery. They don't believe this is would require a surgical remedy.
The only one thing I would add. Was there one thing, Terry, that Sandy, that he did, as far as you guys know, was just something that happened over time, or?
You'll have to talk to Johan about that. I believe, though, his last outing, he experienced some soreness during the course of that start, and then had some recurring soreness that night, and whether or not it was initiated during that last start, I don't know.
Okay, Kevin.
Sandy, just what changed on Monday? Because when you and when Terry spoke with us, and you guys had all talked, it seemed like, okay, start, and then boom after the game. What changed between that time?
Well, I think the MRI changed, and the results and the doctor's recommendation changed. That was information we didn't have through the weekend. There was a lot of discussion through the weekend about what we would be doing between then and the 1st of September. Obviously, we had a lot of discussion leading up to the 6-man rotation. Part of that discussion related to Johan and the desire to keep him viable over the last certainly a couple of weeks of August and into September. But the back issue and the subsequent MRI superseded all of that previous discussion.
Bruce?
Sandy, do you ever think about or wrestle with the decision on the night of the no-hitter? Because when you look at his numbers since then, they have deteriorated. Do you ever have second thoughts about the way that was handled?
I don't have any second thoughts about the way it was handled. Obviously, it's something that comes up. I think the reason that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it is, number one, there's nothing I can do about it. Number two, however, is that this is a back issue that was preceded by an ankle issue, neither of which pre-existed at the time of the no-hitter. This has not been a shoulder issue. So from that standpoint, I just don't see a direct correlation. I think as good an explanation as any is that this is a substantial number of innings that have been pitched over the course of this season, following a season of no activity other than rehab, at least not highly competitive activity, and that this just may be a way that his body is telling him that it's been a long time since the injury,
isn't inflammation the result of something rather than the cause of him going over? What is it that's wrong in his back that causes the area around in his back?
Okay, I'm not a back doctor, but again, to the extent it were disc, for example, that could or could not require surgery. I think you're right that inflammation is a response to could be a response to a tear, could be a response to some compression or what have you. All I can tell you is what the doctors have recommended is rest, medication, and some intermittent exercise, and we don't believe it's serious beyond that.
And if I might, what you said earlier was that you don't expect him to come back this year.
Right.
He's out, correct? And there's no room.
That's
for-
our expectation. Now, the
Okay.
fact that he's on the 15-day disabled list doesn't preclude him from coming back.
Okay. And did you think of that in terms of, let's put him on 60?
We've thought of that as a possibility down the road, but we've already got a couple of players who are on the 15-day disabled list who can be transferred to the 60, so we've got plenty of inventory.
Keep Brian.
Reasonably confident still that he'll be, could be fully healthy going into next year, or if there are any concerns here, does that impact your off-season planning in any way?
No, at this point, I'm very confident he'll be back next season and ready to go, and hopefully in a stronger position than he was coming into this season. I mean, if you look back at the season and what we reasonably could have expected at the beginning of the year, he's actually accomplished quite a lot. I think as we got close to mid-season, we recognized that, look, who knows how long Johan can go. Chris Young, had the same surgery and continues to pitch, but he hasn't pitched as many innings as Johan has. So I can't sit here and say this is a shock or even a surprise. It's disappointing, but that's the nature of things.
Have you guys had any conversations about what his off-season might look like? I know last year, he started in December, it was early for him, and that helped him.
No, we haven't
get ready.
talked about that at any length at this point. Yeah.
Howard.
Sorry.
No, Josh.
Part of his values, Sandy, is kind of off the field, being a mentor, being a positive influence on other people on the team, just his whole countenance. Is he still able, in your opinion, to do those kinds of things just by being around, or is he just off the grid?
No, I think I will probably talk to Terry about what's best at this point. It may be that Johan going back to Florida and simply resting and doing his rehabilitation there is in his best interest. Our typical practice here is for injured players to go to Florida and not be here or on the road. My guess is that's what Johan would prefer. And, to some extent, regardless of what a player's presence is in the clubhouse, under the best of circumstances, it's not the same when that player is injured or not contributing. And that's as much the perception of the individual injured as it is anything else. So we'll decide. Obviously losing Johan from the team is beyond his contributions as a starter is not good. But at the same time, we have to do what's in his best interest, notwithstanding what the dynamic might be in the clubhouse.
Terry mentioned a couple of days ago that he and Dan had been talking, they felt like there was a possibility that maybe in the first half, Johan had just taken on too much work, just thrown maybe too many innings. I'm just wondering, for next season, what have you learned from this year that can help you manage this guy as he continues to rebuild arm strength and things like that?
Well, look, there's a lot of discussion in baseball generally about managing innings, whether it relates to a back or a shoulder or an elbow surgery. And to my knowledge, not a lot of it is based on hard science. We will, of course, go back and look at what lessons we may have learned in Johan's case, that we may have learned, that the doctors may have learned, rest of our medical staff. But at this point, again, I don't believe that fewer innings would have preserved Johan. I mean, it's conceivable that fewer innings, putting him on a longer schedule, might have led actively over the next few weeks.
Wait, one last one, let me get Terry in here, hopefully. We're good? Anything else for Sandy?
Just a time frame. Did Johan complain to management that his bag was hurting? Was something that management suspected, and they said, Johan, we want to check your bag out?
No, Johan